In the studio this morning we have Mr. Whitlam, who is Deputy Leader of the Opposition and of course also Deputy Leader of the Federal Parliamentary Labor Party. Mr. Whitlam, could you tell us something about your family? Was it a very close-knit one?
Yes, there was just the four of us. I have a sister, that's all. And until I went to university, I suppose you could say we were very closely knit, yes.
And whereabouts did you grow up?
I was born in Melbourne. I came to Sydney when I was 2. I went to Canberra when I was 11. I came back to Sydney to go to university when I was 18.
Well, you've had a rather itinerant childhood.
Yeah.
Is there anything particularly about your childhood which you remember vividly?
Not really. We always lived in fairly small communities. You'll notice from 11 till 18 I was living in Canberra, which was a pretty small place then, under 10,000 people. And furthermore, we lived in outer suburbs when we were in Sydney too.
What suburb did you live in Sydney?
Curramurra, which was a pretty small place then, and Chatswood before that.
And
or Mosman before that, but I can scarcely remember that.
Yes. Your father was solicitor, wasn't he?
Yes, he was Commonwealth Crown Solicitor from 1935 till 49, and then during the latter period and for some years afterwards also, he represented us on the Human Rights Commission of the UN about 6 times, I think.
Is this what accounts for the moving round?
Yes, he was always in the public service, and he was Deputy Crown Solicitor in Sydney, and then he became Assistant Crown Solicitor in Canberra, and then Crown Solicitor itself.
Yes. And was he himself considerable influence on you?
Yes, I think this would be right. Not necessarily directly, but facilities he'd put at my disposal, you know, books or things he'd discussed.
What sorts of things do you particularly remember of him?
Well, I've never actually analysed this, but it's just been natural, it's just grown, I suppose. But most of the things that I'm interested in would be matters where I suppose I got my first interest at home.
Was he a person who was very much the centre of the family? Did the family revolve around him?
No, he and my mother were complementary. That is, I wouldn't say that he ran everything, nor that she did. But they each left their sections to the other.
And what about your sister? Did you have a similar complementary relationship with her?
Well, I left home when I was 18 and she was a few years younger, and since then, of course, we haven't been that often in touch with each other, but you know, we meet, I suppose, every month or so. So that is, we're there when we want to see each other, and we've always had very good relations, yeah.
This was when you went to the university?
Yes, yeah.
And she, went into teaching, did she then? She is now a headmistress, isn't she?
That's right, yes, in Sydney. Although she did her university course in Canberra, and then in Melbourne, and then in America. But she lives in Sydney too now.
And what about yourself? Your education, of course, must have been in these bits and pieces too, but
yes.
Where were you educated?
Well, I think I was about 5 schools altogether, whichever happened to be nearest where we were living. But I must say, I think that the influences on matters I'm interested in have been not just at school or university, but every subsequent place I've been, in the Air Force or in Parliament, or at the bar in between.
And what sort of schoolboy were you?
I've not had to think out what sort I was.
Did you work hard?
Not too hard, no.
Were you successful?
As successful as I had to be, yes. I don't suppose I was extended.
You worked hard enough to survive, but that was...
Yes. I mean, I did well enough, but I was always in pretty small classes because, as I say, I was in the outer suburbs or in Canberra.
And did you take part in sport? Were you an active physical child?
Not much at school, no.
And when you went on to the university, what particularly interested you there?
I suppose mainly the magazines that they have at college and at faculty and university, and I did a bit of rowing there, and I was pretty active in student affairs, I suppose you'd say.
You studied law, of course, but did you start it by doing arts? By doing
Yes,
your arts?
I did full arts first before going into law.
And what sorts of things did you study in arts?
I went through the whole way, the whole 3 years, in English, Latin and Greek,
I see. Yeah.
which is a pretty odd background, I suppose.
The Latin and the Greek at that
Yeah,
time
sure.
wouldn't have been as unusual, but it's still quite a
Yes.
steady course.
I
in
think the
classical
only
languages.
man who's done Greek in the Parliament apart from me is Bill Wentworth, and I don't think that one can come to any firm decision as to the influence Greek has on one's politics.
I see. And when you left the university, you then went into practice as a solicitor, did you?
Yes, well, I was in the Air Force for a while and had to do my final year, finish law, after I finished that, and then I went to the bar.
And the war interrupted the training.
Yeah.
And what about the wartime years? What did you do in those?
I was in the Air Force.
You joined up in the ranks?
Well, I joined up in air crew, so of course you go through the ordinary procession through the ranks and so on, and then when you qualify, well, I was commissioned then, and just had the usual regular promotions from I think it's aircraftsman class 2 up to flight lieutenant.
And what sort of job as an Air Force man did you do?
I was a navigator, observer we used to call them then.
This is flying in what, a plane which has several air crew in it, is it? And you're there to
Yes,
guide
that's
it?
right. Yes, I was, operationally we were in Venturas, which are the ancestors of the Neptunes we have here now.
Was the wartime experience important to you?
Yes, yes. I found it very useful indeed. For the first time, one had plenty of time to discuss matters and argue.
And did you feel that this marked a turning point for you? Had you not been particularly serious about where you were going until then?
I suppose you could say that, yes. That is, very much before this was theoretical, yes. But I suppose you could say during these years, during the wartime, I became more purposive, yes. That is, not only because it was in the services, but what governments were doing during wartime. That is, I saw very much more relevance and importance in what Parliament and government could do.
You, of course, were an undergraduate when the war broke out.
Oh, yes,
so that
yes.
it was a
And
matter
when
of growing up as well, I suppose.
Yes, and I was still an undergraduate in law, of course, when it ended.
Yes, fine. And whereabouts did you go during the war? You visited Southeast Asia, I think, as part of this, didn't you?
No, I got to I got as far as the Philippines. The last 6 months or so were there, and then before that in portion of the Indies and New Guinea and the Southwest Pacific in general.
Did any of the associations that you formed during the wartime persist? Do you still know these people personally?
In the last few years, while I've been going around Australia as deputy leader of the party, I've come across a very great number of people that I knew then. But in the years, say the 10 years after the end of the war, I didn't meet very many of them because whereas in the army, people very often enlisted from one particular region and have kept their associations since after demobilisation, in the Air Force you came from a great number of different regions. And so rarely do you find Air Force people continuing their associations after the war.
In the same way.
But as I go around Australia now, I'm astonished the number of people that come up and speak to you, remember you, or purport to remember some things you've done.
It has been said of you that your background isn't typical of the Labor Party. How do you feel about this?
Oh, I know this is often said. I mean, I don't know what specific item that you're referring to now because I'm used to many categories of difference being cited. But in fact, I think I'm pretty typical of the Labor men of my generation in the parliamentary party and the people that have been elected to seats during the 1950s and 60s.
When they say that you're not typical, I think mostly it's a matter of thinking of a family which is middle class rather than working class. This would be true, wouldn't it?
It may be, yes, I suppose this is said, although I think there's plenty of the members whose parents are, similar to mine.
Yes. And then, of course, there's also the point about having come out of the RAF as an officer, which is regarded as being unusual on your side of the House.
It was when I went into Parliament, but that's because we held most of the seats during the 1940s. We won them in 1940, 43, and then if people who were in the services wanted to get into Parliament, they joined the Liberal Party. Now, from 1954 onwards, most of the new recruits to the Labor Party in the federal Parliament have in fact been in the services also. The big majority of them have been.
So you feel that now your type of Labor member is becoming more and more the typical Labor member?
On this category, yes, that's true.
When you came out of the Air Force, you finished the law, and then you practiced as a solicitor.
A barrister, yes.
As a barrister?
Yes. And then, less than 6 years later, I was elected to the House of Representatives.
I see. And was it because of your practicing law that you became interested in politics?
No, I became... I'd always been interested in public issues, I suppose, reading the newspapers and magazines. But during the war, I became much more convinced of the relevance of these matters. And I was very impressed, for instance, when Mr. Justice Everett, as he then was, stepped down from the High Court to contest the elections in 1940. I remember going up to witness his farewell up at Darlinghurst in the High Court. And then, when I was in the services, I was appalled at some of the propaganda which was used by the Liberals, or I think they were still UAP or some stage of disintegration, against the 1944 referendum. And I thought, well, these arguments are spurious and vicious.
This was the 14 powers referendum, trying to get power for the
14 powers and 3 freedoms referendum in 1944. And I was appalled at the level of argument that the Conservative forces used. And I thought, well, this won't do. Nobody can stand aside and see this sort of misrepresentation.
And this was why you joined the Labour
Party?
Yeah.
When did you join it?
1945, when I was demobilised.
Did you then think that you would yourself go into politics, or was this
No, it just grows on you. You know, within a year, I was a minutes secretary. I used to take the minutes for the Darlinghurst branch. And then in 1947 there was to be an election for the city council, and I was chosen to be one of the candidates. And the elections were postponed till 1948, by which time I was living down in Cronulla. So I was chosen to stand for the Shire Council elections then. And in 1950 there was a new seat created of Sutherland, and I contested the selection for that against another man.
You didn't win any of these elections?
No, I was mercifully preserved for the House of Representatives.
I see.
I mean, I'm grateful to the man who beat me in the Sutherland elections in 1950, because, frankly, federal politics, I'm sure, is very much more interesting. But I came so close to winning in 1950 in the Sutherland state election against everybody's predictions that this probably helped my selection a year and a half later for the federal seat, which was becoming vacant.
This is Werriwa, isn't it, your seat, on the western side of Sydney? Well,
at that time it was right from Kurnell right over to Fairfield, the whole of the southern and southwestern approaches to Sydney.
So that it overlapped some of the state seat that you had contested?
Oh, yes. But now it's the western and southwestern approaches to Sydney, you know, from Liverpool up to Wentworthville.
This means you must have a great many people in your electorate who are geographically and socially mobile.
Yes.
People who are...
I have the second largest population of any electorate in New South Wales, and I probably have perhaps the greatest number of people all told, when one considers there's so many young people and so many migrants in my electorate. See, there's only about 45% of the people in my electorate who are on the rolls. That is, who are Australian citizens over 21.
Well, this makes the seat then one of those sorts of seats that the Labor Party is particularly concerned about, isn't it?
Yes.
Young people from families, areas which once voted Labor, moving out into the outer suburbs.
That's so. And migrants coming here too. That is, these in effect are battlers.
Yes.
And in round Sydney we have most of these seats. We have Hughes, and we have Werriwa, and we ought to have Mitchell.
Did you find when you first started to stand for pre-selection in the Labor Party that there was any resistance to what then was a new type of Labor candidate?
No, I never found this. A lot of people suggest that there was some difference and this would make things difficult. But in fact, I never found it. I was younger than most of the candidates in these selections, and I think that helped as just as much as anything you suggest being odd would have hindered. But as I say, I never found any hindrance in this way at all. But what I have found in all selections is that the men and women in the Labour Party want younger candidates. And this helped me at that time.
And you have really gone up in the Labour Party quite fast, haven't you?
Yes, I
since
suppose
that
that's
election.
right, yeah.
Do you have any particular theory as to why this has been the case?
I suppose it was generally that I took a pretty close interest in anything that came up in Parliament, and would think, well, how would the Labour Party deal with this if it had the responsibility, and approach it from that way. That is, I was, I suppose I took a somewhat keen or professional interest in it, and I'm certain that politics is becoming much more professional in that way. So if I had to think out what was the reason why I became deputy leader rather more quickly than would usually be the case, it would be for this reason.
And you feel that the hard work is one of the ingredients of political success?
I'm sure it is. And I have been industrious in the Parliament, and also I think I've been, a practical idealist in how we would deal with the matters which came up. That is, I've directed particular attention to how we would deal as a Labour Party in accordance with our socialist principles in matters which arise within our country and between our country and other countries.
It has been said that you are a good advocate in the sense that you are able to take a brief and put a point of view, even though you haven't yourself been able to take the time to work up a subject thoroughly, but there are also subjects which you've taken a particular interest in. I think Southeast Asia is one of these, isn't it?
Oh, yes. I mean, whether I'm a good advocate or not, it's not for me to say, but I would think that my strength in the party has been that I really have tried to work out what should be the party's policies on these things, and I've done a very great deal of work behind the scenes, quite apart from what one says in Parliament, along these lines. But it is true, I've taken an interest in Southeast Asia, but so has most of my generation in the parliamentary party.
You say most of your generation have been interested in it. This is something that's new on both sides of the House?
On both sides, yes. The older generation, the people who were in Parliament during the war on both sides, never feel at ease with Asia. This applies on both sides. But my generation, I'm certain, realises that we must live in this area, that we must understand it, and without sacrificing our traditions or betraying our ideals, we must try to contribute to the area in which we live.
When you recently went on the overseas tour, you called in at several Asian spots, didn't you, on your way there and back?
On my way I called in the Philippines and Japan, and on the way back in India, Burma, Thailand and Indonesia. When I'd been a couple of years before, I'd been in Malaya, as it then was, and in India.
Did any particular person or place impress you as important for Australia?
Well, India must be the number one interest for Australia in Asia, I'm sure, and I suppose when you mention any particular person, well, I would think Mr. Nehru was the most impressive man I've ever met.
And you're thinking of India because it is a major power and because it also shares some traditions with Australia and so on?
It's a developing country. It's the only considerable democracy in Asia. Well, I suppose Japan is a considerable democracy too. But Japan is a little detached from Asia. But if India remains a democracy and becomes an industrial democracy, then our way of life, the way we want to go about things, is secure in the whole of the Indian nation, Africa and Asia. If India doesn't succeed in this way, well, things will not be nearly as comfortable for us.
And how did you find Indians with regard to Australia? Were they interested in the fact that you were a political leader from Australia?
They were very friendly towards me coming from the Labour Party, largely because they're so friendly to the British Labour Party, and Mr Nehru in particular remembered Dr Evatt. So I found immediately I had entree as a Labour man in the Indian government. That is when I was there 2 years ago, and again when I was there this year. That is, there was immediate basis of participation.
To take you a little away from politics again and back to yourself, you personally obviously have to relax sometimes.
Yeah.
What sorts of things do you like to do to relax?
If I get the time, I do nothing. I relax.
You just simply sit back?
Yeah,
take it easy.
I listen to something or read something.
Yes. What sorts of things do you like to listen to or read?
Well, there again, I suppose the things... I don't read, I suppose, many novels. That is, I don't have the time to do it. But I look up things a lot, and I suppose my principal reading would be, say, the weekly magazines,
yes.
English or American,
yes.
or, insofar as we have them, Australian.
This is, you're thinking here of Bulletin, the Nation and so on when you say insofar as we have them, eh?
Yes,
Yes.
I read The Nation, that's
Yes.
the two you mentioned.
I see. This is an occasion on which you throw the interviewer rather than the other way around. I'd like to ask
you don't write sufficiently for The Nation, and you write too much for the Bulletin.
Yes.
But I'll give you credit that you write under a nom de plume when you write for the Bulletin.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes. When you are mixing with your friends socially, do you tend to be the leader, the man who suggests where you should go and what you should do?
No, I'm probably pretty passive comparatively this way, yeah.
And has this generally been the case among your close personal acquaintances? You follow rather than lead in this situation?
Well, more since I've been in politics, because frankly, when I'm purely on a social occasion like this, well, it's a relaxation. That is, there's too many occasions when I have to take responsibility for me to want to assume it when I don't have to.
What sort of characteristics do you think make a successful politician?
I don't know. It takes all types to make politics, and this is the fascination of it. It's a microcosm of the community, and of course it should be.
And would you be a politician again yourself if you had the choice?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it just grew. That's the point. One doesn't become a politician through deliberate act. There have to be openings, but in my case, these just came, and when they came, I wanted to take them.
This is what Professor Laswell calls a power-seeking individual. Whenever you get the choice, you make the choice which leads towards politics rather than the other choice.
I think this is so, but it wasn't a deliberate attitude on my part. That is, I had no idea when I first, say, went to university that I would ever go into politics. I was always interested in public affairs and probably fairly well informed on them. And when I got out of the Air Force and joined the party, I didn't have it in mind that I'd ever go into Parliament, but I thought, well, this is something where I can be of some use, and I was interested in it.
What is the fascination of politics for you, quite apart from wanting to serve people? Obviously it has a personal, something personally to offer you as well, hasn't it?
Yes, I think there are so many things that can only be done through political action, and there are many, many more things which should be done through political action. So it's only through politics, really, that the average man and woman can ever have any say in his destiny. The alternate sources of power or direction, of course, are from companies, from corporate activity.
Economic rather than political power.
And I've always regarded this as a bit immoral or materialist, or and therefore not very admirable. So I preferred the political action. That is, I do think that more and more in our society and our economy ought to be directed from political methods and means.
So you have a sense of doing something about controlling your own destiny and others rather than sitting back and letting yourself be controlled.
Yes, this is the way that ordinary men and women can have some say in their destiny through elected persons. Otherwise, they're just puppets of the forces which they can't control.
I see. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Whitlam. Next week we'll be talking to Mr. W.C. Wentworth, who is the member for Mackellar.